Hi there, and welcome to Draw With Me. I'm Danny Gregory, and it's Thursday, and it's time to draw. I am the aforementioned me in Draw With Me. You are the drawer. I'm a drawer too. We're all drawers. We're going to draw together. And it's nice to see all of you here. Giselle and Lynn. Kosha, nice to see you too. Yes, I agree with Kosha. All of these perpetrators that we just saw, these witnesses from last week's exercise turned out really well. It's just so interesting to see how our imaginations process this information that we got from Morgan. For those of you who weren't there last week, um, we had Morgan be an eyewitness to a heist, a robbery at a museum, and then she described the perpetrators, and we drew them based on her description, her eyewitness description. As you could see by those drawings, she was a pretty good witness, and we were all pretty good police artists. So now we have a fallback position. If your job as an international banker doesn't work out, you now have a trade that you can leverage to put bread on the table by being a police artist. So that was a lot of fun, and I think for me it was pretty surprising. I mean, surprising for me as well. For like, what was I able to accomplish based on these descriptions? There were a couple that I got horrendously wrong, but a lot of them, like, they looked pretty good. They looked pretty much like the person, the photograph, as did yours. So that was really nice and nice to see. So we're spending a lot of time drawing portraits these days, and I have an ulterior motive, of course, and that is Portrait Jam, the workshop with Julie Johnson, which is coming up in 48 hours. Yipes. Yes, we're all going to be drawing with Julie, and we're going to learn how to draw in watercolor, in ink, in graphite, and fast. We're going to jam out 9 portraits in, I think it's going to end up being about a 3-hour workshop altogether. So lots to do, lots to make, moving fast. And this workshop has been very popular, to say the least. And we are going to have to close our signups today at midnight. So if you want to sign up, go to bit.ly/portraitjam or go to Sketchbook School's website and just go to the workshop tab. But if you don't do it by midnight, you're out of luck. And of course, if you are a member of Spark Breakthrough or Spark Danny Circle, then you get in for free, but only if you've signed up. If you don't sign up, you don't get in. So you know how to do that. You know what the code is. So make sure you sign up, because even if you can't make it, we're recording it all and you'll be able to watch it when you can. I'm sure by now you say, Saturday morning, dude, I'm out there. I'm exploring the world now with my freshly vaccinated arm. I'm out there enjoying life. I can't be sitting around with you drawing people. Well, then you can sit around later on and watch the recording. But I would say, hey, now's the time to start boning up on our portrait skills. The last chance we have to do it before we go out in the world and are drawing, sitting in cafe tables, sitting on the steps of museums, sitting in parks, drawing people everywhere. I had somebody say to me the other day, yeah, I'm not really into drawing people. So this probably isn't for me. And I thought, you're not into drawing people? What are you? What kind of a misanthropic, miserable creature are you? You don't want to draw people? Come on. What do you want to draw? Cocker spaniels? Rotting bowls of fruit? Vistas? Star Wars characters? You want to draw people, trust me. People are the most fascinating thing to look at, to draw. We are predisposed to do it. And if you can draw people, you can delight your friends, confound your enemies, and it's definitely a good skill to have. So join us at Portrait Jam with Julie Johnson. She's an amazing teacher. Told you about her before. She teaches at SCAD. We were talking to her yesterday. She is delightful. She is super pumped about this thing. You can't believe it. She's really, really excited. So she's going to be doing a great job and teaching us a lot. So Chris points out a good point that a lot of people are Star Wars characters. Therefore, You need to be able to draw people, even if they have green faces and pointed ears and trunks and whatever. Draw people. It's the thing to do. What does Betsy say? I would like to work on drawing people. Small, full figures to place in landscapes, seascapes, and cityscapes. Uh-oh, a note. Yes. So, uh, that's true. But I think people are more than just things to place in a landscape. Come on. But anyway, yes, at the very least, you should be able to do that. So, and I think once you start drawing people, it's hard to get away from it. You know, a lot of people who draw people who draw people are the luckiest people in the world. So, yes, did I get a carload of letters? I got a boatload of letters. We got a whole bunch of letters, and Morgan has pulled them all from the letters. When you, Rebecca's asking about letters, is because 2 weeks ago, we worked on making letters, making envelopes and stuff like that. Where's my letter that I wrote? Yes. Okay. God. Here it is. Yes. So we worked on this project. Let me just get rid of this thing. We worked on this project, and a bunch of letters started to come in. I'll be honest, I was going to talk about them today. I think I'm going to wait another week. I just want to absorb them a bit. I want to have some perspective on them. And frankly, right now, we've just dumped them out of the mailbox. So I think I'm going to wait another week. I hope that's not too disappointing. But I think that way we can put them together into a nice presentation to share with you. And I can read them and I can mull them over. And then we can pick something really good. So let's take another week. All right, so Thistle, a misanthropic hermit. I know the feeling. I think we're all tempted to do that. To be curmudgeonly. What's the term? Can't think of the word right now. Let me have some more coffee. I had to get up early this morning because my dog was very anxious to go on a long walk. She's now at the stage where she likes to go for long walks, and we do that. Claire, is there a template for writing me a letter? No. Yes, it begins, Dear Danny, and it ends with love and kisses, Claire. And whatever happens in between is up to you. So no, there is not a template. In fact, that would obviate the whole purpose of doing that, right? So yes. Where can Evan find the letter thing? Well, you can watch Draw With Me from 2 weeks ago, and you will see it all in there. So yes, and as Sketchbook Skool is telling us here, it's not too late. If you get it in the mail soon, you may not miss it. So all right, so yes, we'll extend it a little bit longer. So yes, Laura, yes, you can still send me letters. Red Truck Revival, you can still send me letters. And yes. Oh, should I hold this up again? No. Maybe you can just put it into the comments. But because I don't want to spend a huge amount of time holding up this envelope. But here it is, just in case. Send it to me or Morgan or Sketchbook Skool, whoever you want to send it to. Post Office Box 163153. 163153, Columbus, Ohio. And 43216. 43216. So, Morgan, I think we're going to have to do another run at the mailbox next week because it sounds like there's going to be some last-minute letters coming in. So let's do it. Let's do it. Send me a letter. That would be nice. And I'm going to pick one of the letters randomly because they're all going to be awesome. Not based on merit, all going to be awesome. And I'm going to pick one and send you a little something or other. It'll be nice. So thank you all. I can't. What is it with letter? It's not the letter question mark, but it's the letters that go into an envelope. Here we go. Morgan says, address it to Sketchbook Skool at that post office box. Well, we can do better than that. We'll put the actual post office box in the comments. We'll also we'll probably put it in this YouTube thing on the at the bottom. So, okay, what else? You know, it's been a while since I've said this, so I'm going to say it now. You can text me. People text me all kinds of things, and I text them. What does it mean for me to text you? It means that you get a message on your telephone your mobile phone that says, something from me. Could be, hey, I drew this today, or it could be, hey, I found this cool thing. I found a couple of really cool things last week that I shared with people in text, and you missed them, but they were pretty cool. And I also like, if you're a member of Spark and you want me to remind you that draw things coming up or something else is coming up, I can do that too. So it's just kind of another way of reaching you, and also if you want to text me back, I get all the texts, I read them, I respond to any ones that seem to want response, and I do that. So that's there, and a lot of you do it. Okay. Hi, Brigitte from Germany. Um, nice to see you. Good day. All right, here's one other thing. Every Friday, I write an email essay, dannysessays.com. You can sign up for it. Go to dannysessays.com. It will take you to a page where you can put in your email address so I can tell where to send it to. I don't know where to send it to you otherwise. I'm not a mind reader. A lot of other skills, that's not one of them. But I write an essay about, stuff that's on my mind, inspirational stuff, confessional stuff, all kinds of things. And, you can read it, you can ignore it, you can write back to me. A lot of people do. And that's really nice too. I love to hear from you. So, yeah, so all these things are going on. And, that's enough for one day. All right, let me prepare myself for the next stage. All right, we're going to do a project now that's going to require your attention. So whatever you have going on around you, stop it. Focus on what I'm about to tell you and what we're about to do. Get some paper. Get yourself a sketchbook. Get yourself a pen or two. I don't think we'll have time to do much more than draw with a pen right now. So I would suggest have a pen. And what I've been thinking about since last week when we did this thing with the witnesses, because I talked about this in the after party at Spark. We talked about what is the point of that exercise with the witnesses. It was fun. It was interesting. It was kind of cool, sexy. Well, I don't know about sexy, but it was snazzy. And in some ways, we go through this process when we draw where we translate what we're seeing into information, instructions, directions for our hands that are drawing. So basically, what we're seeing goes into our eyes, goes into our brain, and it gets processed there. It gets processed in the sense that what we're drawing is not a photographic representation of exactly what we're seeing. It's an interpretation of what our brain has prioritized in the things that we see. So in the case of this exercise we did last week, an eyewitness is essentially what we are. We're an eyewitness to the thing we're seeing. So the eyewitness is saying, it was a man with a large nose and a scar and a black eye and a handlebar mustache and a greasy rat's nest of hair. All those things, we're translating it into words and concepts. And then when we go to draw, we draw what does a handlebar mustache looks like? What does this and that? But sometimes we also say it's a line that goes down 3 inches and then it turns left at a 45-degree angle. There are other ways. It's not always just in terms of features. But we're talking to ourselves as we do it. So Morgan, in some ways, was playing that role. So a lot of what we do is we think about what we're seeing, and then we draw what we've thought about. And if we haven't been paying careful attention, or if we have kind of misinterpreted or miscommunicated to ourselves what those things are we see, it's much more difficult to draw them. Or we draw what the voice behind the curtain told us to draw, but then it turns out that wasn't actually very accurate. So we have to train ourselves when we draw to see, not just to look, but to see, right? So that sounds really obvious, but we overlook it a lot of the times, and we don't do things often to test that, to build that facility, and to build the internal vocabulary that we need to have in order to be clear with ourselves what we're talking about. I just want you to think about that. It sounds kind of abstract right now, but we're going to try and do an exercise to see how we can do that. Okay, so I want you to think about when you do this drawing, and this drawing may or may not turn out well, but you're going to learn something very interesting as you do it. Something that I want you to continue to think about and work on. Because when you first do it, you're not going to be that good at it. Okay, so let's just put that aside. Today, we're not going to do necessarily good drawings, but we are going to learn an important skill that I think will be helpful for us in the future, that we all need more work at. I know I do. I know I do. Because my brain is constantly grinding away. It's like the world distracts us all the time. But when it comes to drawing, if we're not in the zone, if we're not focused, it's really, really hard to see and draw what we're seeing, okay? So I was thinking, like, what if we look at something, study it for a while, and then start to draw it. So don't just immediately sit down and start drawing, but look at it for a minute. And then let's draw it, looking at it for a minute. And then let's see how much we were retaining in this process, okay? So we're going to work on a fast time schedule. There's not going to be a huge amount of time to do this. I want to keep it short. And so if you're drawing and you don't finish, you didn't observe enough, you only observed part of it, just draw that part that you observed. Don't make it up. Don't fill in the parts that you're not sure about yet, okay? You could do that later on, and a lot of times we do. A lot of times we're like, eh. But what's also interesting is when you don't complete everything, your brain, in looking at the picture, does fill it in anyway. Our brains are used to doing that. Our brains will fill in the data that isn't there, and we'll still be satisfied. So it won't look like half a face. It'll look like a face, even though we've only seen half of it, okay? So that's going to be what this will be about. You know, there are other ways of developing this facility. You know, just try making up exercises for yourself about looking that aren't directly about drawing at that minute. So for instance, it's a thing I've tried occasionally, which is drawing without a pen. I don't mean drawing with a pencil. Drawing without a pen is like you look at something and you go through the action that you would of observing the thing that you're drawing, but you just don't record it. So it's almost like you make something and you never make a print of it. You never print it out of the computer. So you look at it, you let your eye travel around it, you observe the details, you move from one place to another. And normally your hand would be recording that on a piece of paper. And then you would judge, right? Because we always judge. You would judge your observation based on the verisimilitude, the accuracy of your drawing. You would say, okay, that came out well. But this way of doing drawing without a pen, you don't have to worry about that judging part of it. You can just work out. You can just exercise the brain, okay? So would you hold a pen? You can. If it makes you feel better, you can also do that. I've done it like just sitting on a bus, looking out the window, you know, sitting, waiting for somebody, and you just kind of go in that zone, and you start saying, okay, I'm going up the left side, I'm turning around the corner, I'm going. It's just go through that part of it, but don't go through this part of it. Just do it occasionally. You know, it's just interesting. Drawing in your head, right? Thistle has said it more simply, drawing with that head. Kosha also says she often draws without a pen. Noticing negative space, right? That's a great point. When you look at something, negative space is the area around it. So if you look at a building, the negative space is perhaps the sky behind it. So look at the sky, don't look at the building. Just look at it and go, try to isolate that as a shape. So we're training ourselves to look as much as we can. Okay, that's enough yammering. Let's try this out. Are you ready? Right, seriously, it's going to be fast. Okay. So here we go. So we're going to look at a picture for a minute, and then we're going to work on drawing for a minute, and we're going to see how it goes. And there's going to be a timer. Okay, just calmly look at her face. What do we notice about her? What are the outstanding features? What are the shapes that you notice? Get your pen on your paper. Get ready. You have time to think. Start planning. Maybe start planning that drawing. Where do you think you're going to place it on the page? You know, what are the shapes? What are the shapes of her eyes? The shapes of her eyebrow? Are you going to draw her teeth? Are you going to draw her dress? Let's see. We've got 2 seconds. Ah, here we go. Whoops, we don't want to see him. He's not supposed to be there. Get out of the way. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to give you a bit more time. Hold on a second. I'm going to give you a bit more time. Let me get her back. Sorry. Ah, all right, I screwed this up. It was a very complicated thing to do, and I've done it wrong. Okay, let me start this again. Here we go. Got a minute. Oh no, she's gone. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to keep drawing. You're going to keep drawing based on what you think you remember about her. What was it? What was she like? Keep going. Don't freak out. You can do it. It's tough. What else do you remember? What was her hair like? Huh. That's it. All right. Now, I know some of you had time to write a comment, so that suggests that you didn't have time to study her. But now that you have, what was that like? How terrifying was it? That was pretty awful. And when I drew her, I was like, my God, what happened to the actual pretty girl that I was looking at? It was very difficult. For me, at least, it was. Maybe you saw amazing. Maybe you have like a photographic memory that, like an afterburn. You know, that kind of when you look at something and then you look away and you can still see it. Boy, that would be cool. But yeah, so should we try it again? Karen's first drawing of a human face. All right, Karen, you dove into the deep end. That's good. Congratulations. That was good. You should be drawing more people. Draw people. It's fun. I'm wondering if I should get something fatter. You see, that's my first impulse. I go, let me draw with a fatter pen. That way, that'll be a good excuse for not getting the details right. John Cromer, screen grab. You know, there's one in every crowd. Do not screen grab her. That's not the point. If you want to draw her, I will be glad to email you the picture and you can draw her. But concentrate on, Francesca says, I concentrate on the shape of the face and the details. Yes. It's difficult to concentrate on both, I would say. You know, is there a way of doing an abstraction? Let's see. All right. Let's see if we can do this again. Here we go. This is a different person. Okay. All right. Let's have a look at him. In some ways, it's a simpler face. There's very definite shapes that I see in his face. What are the unlikely things about his face, like the shape of his mouth relative to the width of his jaw, the roundness of the bottom of his nose? His eyes are pretty big, but they're pretty simple. But I'm definitely seeing that triangular face that he has, triangular shape. That's going to kind of guide me, I think. So, all right. Go. All right. Yeah, to me, it's all about the shape of his eyes. I thought it was about the shape of his face, but I'm not feeling it now. Okay, so, I don't even quite remember where his ears were like. I know he was wearing a black t-shirt. The shape of his hair was a bit less distinct just because of the dark background. There was a lot of reflection in his eyes, so I'm kind of screwing it up by doing that. But I don't really remember his ears, but I do remember that the roundness of the bottom of his nose, and then this is actually the bridge of his nose is kind of actually narrow, and then his eyebrows were very arched. They were very cleanly shaped, as I remember. Yes, the photo's gone, Tina. That was the idea. The idea is you had 2 minutes to look at his face, 2 minutes to draw his face, but one of those minutes of drawing had no picture. So here we get, this is an interesting comment that Karen's making. Noses are very hard. Why is that? Why are noses hard to draw? They're three-dimensional objects. They stick out in the air, stick out in the front. A lot of times we have shorthands for drawing noses. You know, like if you ever look at a comic book, like a Superman type comic book, you'll see there's like a very sort of shorthand way they draw the bottom where the nostrils are, and then they draw one line for the bridge, and it kind of goes up into the eye. There are shorthands that we have. But it would be worth spending some time thinking about what a nose is and maybe drawing a whole bunch of them. If you have a challenge, if you find a particular thing difficult to draw, drawing a lot of them can help. But here's another thing to think about. Noses, there's nothing magical about a nose, right? It doesn't have properties that are different from any other three-dimensional object or shape. It's simply something that we need to slow down and look at. So um, they don't have outlines like eyes or mouths. That's true. Catherine points out they don't have outlines, right? In other words, our eyes have dark lines around them a lot of times. Our noses tend to be, there might be a shadow underneath it, but then they and that you might see the bridge of the nose might have some definition, but then this part, like where does it end? And it's this kind of gradual slope. So, we have to think about those kinds of things. It's also a challenge when you're drawing just a contour drawing rather than something that actually has shading that could do that. So I think we have to do that. Thistle says, could we have a nose drawing session? That's right, we had the ear drawing session. Morgan led that. Yes, so maybe we'll get Morgan to come back and draw noses. No, yes, we can do that. I mean, Laura also brings up teeth. Teeth. I'll give you just my one thing about teeth. Don't draw individual teeth. If you draw individual teeth, you look like a jack-o'-lantern. So if you have to draw teeth, and generally we're drawing teeth. Why are we drawing teeth? Because we're drawing from a photo. Because most of the time you don't see teeth. They're in your head. But if you see teeth, it's because you have like a kind of moment. So I would say think of the teeth as a single shape. Think of the whole arc of your teeth as one shape or two shapes, top and bottom, and then maybe the darkness in between. But teeth can really ruin the emotional effect of something. They just if you look gap toothed, you look like you just look crude a lot of times. So piano keys, as Laura says, right? Exactly. Yeah. Or Mama Bear says, when I add teeth, they look creepy. Yeah, teeth are they're not expressive particularly. The smile might be expressive. So if you look again, going back to comic books, because comic books are often a good way of developing shorthand because they're telling stories visually. They'll generally draw like just white, or maybe a line in the middle that shows that the mouth is slightly open. So yes, John says, I just do the bottoms. So he draws a lot of, pugs and the like. Chiclet teeth, right? So yeah, so maybe we'll do, I don't think I want to do a teeth drawing session, but maybe we'll do noses. All right, let's go back to what we were talking about. Simmer down. Let's concentrate. We've got another person to draw. Another person to observe. And then to draw. But what I'd like to also ask you to think about is, are we actually trying to figure out ways of drawing bits of faces, like shorthands? Or are we trying to capture the individuality of every face that we draw, and therefore maybe drawing it in a way that sort of assumes that we've never seen a face before? Is it possible? Or is it that we want to take our standard vocabulary of face drawing bits and just make adaptations, variations for a particular person's face? So I draw noses this way. This guy has a big nose, so let me draw the way I draw noses, but make it bigger. You see that can be problematic. Instead, what I suppose is it would be better to try and see a face as a thing, as an object, and not two eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and ears and hair, but to see it as just a thing, just like you would draw a bagel or a pair of shoes or a schnauzer or a Venetian ruin. Draw what you see. Okay. Let us. Am I your mother? I don't know. Unlikely. All right, so we have some conversation about drawing people upside down. We have drawn people upside down, but again today, let's get back to what we're trying to do. Maybe this is a failed experiment. Maybe the fact that we're going off the path means that it isn't really working, but I'd like to suggest that it can. Let's take a moment to look at another face, and then let's take a moment to draw that face while looking at it, and then let's take a third moment, and by moment I mean 60 seconds, to continue drawing that face without looking at it. All right. Uncapping pen. Limbering up. Here we go. I do like this guy's face. It's so nice to draw. Somebody with character like this. There's a nose. That's what we call a nose in the business. Yeah. It's not a lot of time to draw him. I'd like to keep looking at him. I may have to keep drawing this guy later on because, man, that's a good face. Some really interesting wrinkles around his eyes. And that nose, it's like a potato. And then he has a kind of a couple of warts on him as well, just to make it even more interesting. And a reasonably full head of hair. Goes in lots of different directions. It's a good face. Here we go. Good God. Oh boy, that was like eating a really like spicy taco. Still, a lot hit me quickly, and I have still savoring the aftertaste. Boy. Oh, come on. I know. I agree with Jen. She says I needed at least 2 more minutes to enjoy that face. I'm tempted to bring him back. Maybe we'll look at him again in the after party. Do it again. That was a tough one though, but that was just a really good face. I was pleased with that. So all right. So maybe a minute isn't long enough. Maybe we need more time. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. I agree with Thistle that it was hard because here's what we're doing. We're reading information. It's like reading a magazine article, a long magazine article, and you're like, do I skim it? Hey, can I borrow your paper for 1 minute? Oh my God, this is a really interesting article. Oh God, I have to give it back to you. So we're skimming and we're trying to like pull out information, but a lot of times, you know, it's not organized in a way that we necessarily know what matters. We have to kind of orient ourselves around it. Like, what are going to be the things that I really, really need to know from this? How am I going to grab those? What's the point of doing this fast? Why do this in a minute or 2 minutes? Why not take 10 minutes? Maybe that's the problem, is doing it fast. Well, there's a couple reasons why we should do it fast, which isn't to say we shouldn't also do it slow. But I think when we do it fast, it's the leaf blowers. Oh my God. So when we do it fast, we're really focused. There's no time for distraction. So therefore, there's no time for distraction like leaf blowers. So you're really focused. You're absorbing a lot of information. You're also only picking up highlights. Like, you can't get bogged down in the details. I think we've all seen these drawings that people labor over. I'm going to do a drawing of, I don't know, Brad Pitt, and I'm going to spend an awful lot of time drawing it. So it's really, really good, and I'm going to trace bits of it, and I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to work on it for months. You've seen drawings like that. You know, they're like, it's like teenagers with lots of time on their hands are doing. And, you know, I think it is not necessarily a good drawing. I don't know. I think a lot of times it feels stodgy, cramped, overworked, because you have to decide. Yes, you may want to put in all the details, but you still have to have balance. It can't be about a description of everything with no prioritization. You have to still tell a story. And the story is, look at this man. He is weather beaten. He is strong. He is an individual. He is ugly and yet beautifully powerful. Like, that may be the story we want to tell. So what are the elements that we need to tell that story? And it can't just be, I'm going to just draw every, you know, thread in his shirt. That's not the point. The point is not to create the photograph, it's to create the impression. And that impression is often reductive. So how do we train ourselves to reduce to what are the elements that actually make it the thing, that make it tell that story? So that's why working fast sometimes is helpful. But I also like to work simultaneously slowly. What do I mean by that? There's an exercise that I've shown you, possibly, I think I've shown you here, called fast and slow, where you draw something very quickly and then you draw the same thing very slowly on top of the same drawing. Sometimes using two different colors or two different materials. So you can draw in 1 minute and then in 30 minutes. But using that initial blast frenzy of impression and then working on the details to reinforce that impression, you know, so you don't get overwhelmed by it. So anyway, if you've never seen that exercise, it means you've never taken our class called Seeing. You've never taken our class called Art Bootcamp. And I pity you, because there's a huge hole in your life, which can be filled by going to sketchbookschool.com and signing up for either one of them. All right. That is that for today, because that was exhausting. It was tough. You know, it's a thing I've been thinking about. Let me just say one more thing. Drawing is a physical exercise, a physical activity. And it takes focus, it takes intensity, it takes, you know, mental energy, it takes some physical energy. There's a lot of things that go into drawing that we take for granted. And particularly when you are starting to draw, you're not that experienced in drawing, you're out of shape. I'm out of shape now. I'm going back to the gym after a year. I'm really out of shape. And it's hard to do things that I used to be able to do. It's hard to do things that I see other people around me doing and go like, well, how come he's able to do that and I can't do it? I must have no talent. I must suck. We're out of shape. So we need to work at it. And doing something like this today is intense. You need to be at the top of your game in doing it and really focus. So you might only be able to do it for a few minutes. A lot of times we'll go out and we'll draw something, like say you go and do urban sketching, you sit down, there's like a big elaborate street scene, lots of buildings and people and cars and stuff. You can very quickly get exhausted, particularly if you're trying to draw everything, and your drawing gets sloppier. Your perspective, your observational skills, your handling of the media, all those things break down because you're tired, because you can't sustain that level of intensity. So you have to think about that. How do you pace yourself? And different people have different speeds, natural speeds, but also developed speeds. So those are all things that we have to acknowledge to ourselves and work on, figure out, how do I get better at this? How do I do it for longer? The fact that you can't do it today, for those of you who are just drawing faces for the first time, yipers. Don't worry about it. You weren't meant to do it well today, but you did dive in. And the funny thing is, like many physical activities, your acceleration curve is pretty extreme at the beginning. You're going to get a lot better pretty quickly, and then you're going to plateau. And then something will happen, and you'll get a bit better, and then you'll keep getting better. It takes a long time, and you work on it for a long time, but there's pleasure in the work. There's pleasure in the learning, in the development. So the fact that it's a long journey, it's a beautiful journey. It's a wonderful journey through lots of fascinating experiences. And we have the rest of our lives to go on that journey together. So, well, hopefully together. So keep working at it. Keep trying things like this. Push yourself. Come back next Thursday. Let's do this some more. I was going to say, if you want to share what you did today, by all means, put it on social media. Maybe not. If you want to, you can, of course. But yeah. Speaking of developments, yes, this pug is developing a lot. This pug does not like the leaf blowers. No, she does not like these leaf blowers. But she is developing and growing and learning and getting bigger paws. And her teeth are sharper. Are your teeth sharper? Yeah, look at those teeth. A lot of teeth. Anyway, so if you'd like to share what you did, put it on social media with hashtag SBS Draw With Me. I think next week I probably won't be showing them, though. I think we'll show the letters instead. So don't worry about that. But, I think this is today was about exercising. You don't necessarily need to share it. You're tired? I know. It's exhausting. And you don't even have hands to draw with. I know. All right, guys, thank you. For those of you in Spark, I will see you in the after party, and we'll continue with this exercise. For the rest of you, I'll see you next Thursday. And again, if you'd like to get my email tomorrow, please sign up. Let me just put that up again. Let's get rid of this. And I'll see you then. Thank you, and